Counsel?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Provencio, you were first interviewed by the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Department on Saturday, January 31st, 2004, right?
Uh-huh.
And you were interviewed by a Sergeant Roble, correct?
Correct.
And in that interview, Mr. Provencio, you told Sergeant Roble that Mark directed everything, and it's unknown if Michael Jackson even knew about what was going on with the Arvizo family, correct?
If it's in the report. At that time, I didn't know what to do. I just was, just talking to them, yeah.
I understand. But that's exactly what you told Sergeant Roble.
If I wrote it, then that's what I said at that time. Mark was orchestrating. Oh, I'm sorry.
That was your first police interview, true?
Yeah, if you have the report there, yeah.
You used those words in your interview with Sergeant Roble, correct?
Yes, if it's in the report.
I'm going to object as non-responsive based on personal knowledge.
Sustained.
Would it refresh your recollection if I show you Sergeant Roble's handwritten notes of your interview with him?
No, that's okay. I believe you.
I need to find out if that's what you said to Sergeant Roble.
Sergeant Roble?
Yes. Did you tell Sergeant Roble in your interview on January 31st, 2004, words to the effect, Mark directed everything? It's unknown if Michael Jackson knew about what was going on with the Arvizo family.
Yes, I wrote that, or said that. Sorry.
Now, you told Sergeant Roble in that interview that when the Bashir taping of Living with Michael Jackson was aired in the U.S., Schaffel immediately contacted Weisner and Konitzer, right?
Correct. I believe Dieter was staying at the ranch at that time.
At no time in that police interview did you say that any of these people got together because a transcript was forwarded in January of 2003, right?
Does it say that? Or, are you telling me something or are you asking me a question?
I'm just.
Objection. Vague.
Okay. In your police interview on January 31st, 2004.
Uh-huh.
You told Sergeant Roble that Weisner and Konitzer. Excuse me, let me rephrase that. Schaffel contacted Weisner and Konitzer after the Bashir taping of Living with Michael Jackson was aired in the US, right?
No, it was after. I believe it was after the 24th transcript.
That's something.
Because that's when the conspiracy really starts, is after the 24th transcript.
That's something you've come up with for this trial. That's not what you said in your first interview, right?
That's argumentative. Objection.
Sustained.
In your interview, you said they got together after the airing, right?
Well, I know what happened. It was after we got the transcript he made the phone calls.
Would it refresh your recollection if I show you the police report?
I know what it might say, but I'm telling you right now it was after the 24th transcript was delivered that they, started contacting.
You just came up with that recently, didn't you?
No.
Objection. Argumentative.
Overruled. Next question.
You recently turned over the so-called notes you say you kept, right?
Uh-huh.
And when did you recently turn them over to the prosecution?
When I found them in my storage unit.
When did you find these notes in your storage unit?
It was probably last month, around the 14th. I really actually did forget about them. I stuck them in a box and I just kind of forgot them, because they weren't, that's what I did. I just put them in a box and put the whole thing behind me.
During all of this period of time when you were acting as a police informant.
I'm going to object to the use of that term, and compound.
I'll rephrase it. Did you act as a police informant in this investigation?
Whenever something has happened, a criminal act has been committed, it's everybody's duty to work with law enforcement, so the answer is yes.
When did you start working as a police informant, Mr. Provencio?
Law enforcement, I worked with them when they asked me, after, what is it? When they served me the search warrant, or I agreed to the search warrant.
And when was that?
A couple months, like I said, a couple months after Michael's place was searched.
And you started recording phone calls for the sheriff's department.
Right.
Correct?
To get to the truth, correct.
I understand. And this was in 2004, correct?
It would have been 2004, yes.
And did you do it into 2005?
Into 2005? Yes,
And you were in constant touch with the sheriffs about the investigation, right?
Well, I only let them know what I had, as far as, tried to get to the truth of some matters that were unanswered.
You were in constant touch with the sheriffs during the period of time you were recording phone calls, right?
Yes, sir.
I'll object to that question as vague.
Overruled. He said, yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
He answered it. Yes.
And you were recording phone calls for over a year, correct?
Yes.
Never told anyone in the sheriffs about these notes, right?
Well, I've always had notes, so yes, I did tell them about the notes, but not these. Those particular notes I had found when I cleaned out a storage unit, and I have the receipt to show that I cleaned out that storage unit, because I switched storage units.
When they searched your house, did you give them the notes?
I gave them some notes, yes.
Not the ones you turned over in the last few weeks, right?
No, that's true.
You just kind of forgot about them while you were working as an informant?
I'm going to object to the continuous use of argumentative questions and sarcasm in his questioning.
Mr. Mesereau?
Yes, Your Honor?
I'm going to admonish you to stop that.
Yes, Your Honor. In your interview with Sergeant Roble on January 31, 2004, you said it was around the beginning of February of 2003 when Weisner and Konitzer allowed Schaffel to rejoin their team, true?
Yes.
It was not in January, correct?
Can you rephrase that again? I'm sorry. Maybe I blanked out a little bit. Say it again. I'm sorry.
You told Sergeant Roble that Weisner and Konitzer allowed Schaffel to rejoin their team around the beginning of February of 2003?
It had been. Do you want me to explain? No?
Is that what you told Sergeant Roble in that police interview?
If it's there, I told him that, yeah. But.
Do you know if that's what you said?
Yes. If I said it, I said it.
Did you say it?
Yes, I said it.
Do you remember telling Sergeant Roble in that interview that you thought Debbie Rowe was honest and sincere regarding her responses to the questions in that interview?
Well, I don't remember exactly saying that, but I know what I saw there. I mean, so I guess if it's there in writing and I said it, then I said it.
Well, I have to ask you if you said it.
Okay, I said it, sorry.
And you told Sergeant Roble in that interview on January 31, 2004, that you thought the questions she was asked were typed via computer, right?
Well, there was several versions, but, yeah, like there was one version that I saw handwritten, and then because it's just not one piece of paper that I saw. It was variations of things.
And when you saw the questions, you asked Schaffel what they were, and he told you they were questions to be asked to Debbie Rowe, right?
Yeah, flippantly. Questions and answers.
Well, you didn't tell the police about answers in that interview, did you?
In that interview?
Yes.
Probably not. But I was really scared at that time, too, because that was the very first time I was meeting them, law enforcement. So I didn't really know what was going on, and I I do make mistakes. I can get jumbled in some of my stuff, but, I was being honest. I was being honest when I was there.
Who wrote out the questions, if you know?
For Debbie Rowe, are you?
Yes.
Ian had sent over the questions via email. And then they were in many different forms at the office.
Did you work on the questions yourself?
Oh, no.
Okay. Did you see Schaffel changing the questions at all?
Well, yeah, he would write things and then, edit it.
Okay. By the way, in that interview. Of January 31, 2004. You never said anything about any escape, correct?
I don't believe I did, no. We were just first meeting, so it was a bombardment of questions and information, so I was just trying to answer, what I knew. And it seemed all very overwhelming.
In that interview of January 31, 2004, with Sergeant Roble, you never mentioned the word killers, true?
That is true.
You did talk about the Arvizo family going shopping, right?
Correct. That they had told me. And seen them exchange money.
You said Schaffel would give cash to the Arvizo family for shopping, right?
Well, to Vinny. And then Vinny would sign a receipt. That's what I witnessed.
You talked about Vinny Amen transporting the Arvizo family, correct?
Correct. In that four-door clunker.
And you indicated at the beginning of that interview to Sergeant Roble that you would tell him everything you knew, right?
Well, at that, yeah, to the best of my knowledge at that time. You know, but I was nervous, too.
And you said.
Like I'm nervous now.
You told Sergeant Roble you would tell him everything you knew, and you didn't want it to be tape recorded, right?
That's true.
Did you tell Sergeant Roble everything you knew on that date?
No, because I didn't, it wasn't something I was thinking about for a while, so it was, I told him what I knew at that particular time.
And the first time you ever produced anything to the sheriffs referring to escape, or killers, was a few weeks ago, right?
Well, that was when I found it, because I didn't think I had it anymore, but I always kept journals, not all of them that I still have,
Well, would it be accurate to say that even though you told Sergeant Roble you would tell him everything you knew on January 31, 2004, you just forgot about the escape on that date?
No, I told him what I knew based on the questions he was asking me. And I was being honest at that time.
And would it be accurate to say that during your interview with Sergeant Roble on January 31, 2004, you just forgot about the reference to, "I'm sorry"? Let me withdraw the question and restate it. Would it be accurate to say that during your interview with Sergeant Roble on January 31, 2004, where you said you'd tell him everything you knew about these events, you just forgot about someone using the word killers?
I know what I heard.
Did you forget to mention that in that interview?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Overruled. I'll have the question read back.
Okay.
Would it be accurate to say that during your interview with Sergeant Roble on January 31, 2004, where you said you'd tell him everything you knew about these events, you just forgot about someone using the word killers? Did you forget to mention that in that interview?
I didn't mention it at that time, if it's in writing. I didn't mention it at that time.
You just forgot, do you think?
I don't forget. I just didn't mention it at that time.
Now, the prosecutor asked you to read some of the credits.
Correct.
That are found in the little brochure that accompanies Michael Jackson's DVD entitled Invincible, okay?
Uh-huh.
And, did you ever work on that album?
We went to the video shoot, yes.
And he had you read credits that are given to Schaffel, right?
Well, yeah, Mark said that was his.
And he had you read credits that are given to the Casio family, right?
Right.
Michael gave a lot of other credits to a lot of other people?
Correct. There's a lot there.
And he tells a lot of people that he loves them, right?
Yes.
Michael typically says he loves people he's giving credits to, right?
Yeah, that's like his soundbite, yeah.
And he dedicated the Invincible album, said, "A special thanks to all the children of the world of all nationalities. You are my greatest inspiration. Without you this album would never have been released. I love you all, Michael Jackson," right?
You read it, yeah.
Do you remember that?
Well, yeah, I read through it.
Okay. He expressed gratitude to his parents, Joseph and Catherine, right? Remember that?
Does it say it there?
Right.
Does it say it?
For their love and support, inspiration and caring, I love you dearly. Thank you for conceiving me. Your son, Michael. Do you remember that?
I'm sorry, I don't remember that, but I did read it. I read it once or twice.
He also dedicated it to Prince and Paris, saying, "You give me the greatest joy I've ever known in my entire life. I love you both from the bottom of my heart, now and forever," right?
Yep.
Did you know someone named John McClane?
I don't know him. I knew of him.
Who is he?
He's a music guy that we never could figure out what he did.
Do you remember Michael dedicated Invincible to John McClane?
Yeah, I read that.
Saying, "This album would not be possible without your genius and perfection. I love you, Michael Jackson," right?
I remember John McClane's name.
He dedicated it to Elizabeth Taylor, correct?
Yeah.
He said, "Elizabeth, through it all, you have been my constant, with your support, your caring and your love. I love you dearly, Michael Jackson," right?
Okay.
Do you remember that?
Sure.
He said, "A special thanks to Carlos Santana for sharing your genius and love. Michael Jackson," right?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, I guess so. You're reading it.
He had a whole list of people
Right.
that he dedicated this album to with expressions of love, correct?
Correct.
It wasn't just to Schaffel or the Casios alone, was it?
Well, him and Schaffel were friends. So, yeah, it wasn't just them.
He dedicates it to Chris Tucker, does he not?
I don't remember that one, but sure.
Says, Dear Chris, with all my respect for your art and deepest gratitude for your contribution, your friendship and your love to the future, and to all that we can create together. I love you, Michael Jackson, right?
Okay.
Remember that?
No, but if it's there, I believe you.
He gave a special thanks to everyone at MJJ Productions, and listed people in various capacities, right?
My objection is that the witness has stated to the last three that he has no recollection of any of them. It appears that counsel is simply reading it into the record. I'll object.
Sustained.
Before you testified, did you go over this document with the prosecutor?
I looked at it.
Where did you go over this document with the prosecutor?
In the office.
And when was this?
A couple days ago, 2 days ago, or something.
And were you with Prosecutor Zonen?
Yes.
Okay. Did you talk about your being asked questions about where the credits went on the album, Inspiration?
Inspiration.
I mean, pardon me, Invincible. I'm sorry, my mistake.
Invincible.
Did you talk to him about what you were going to say to those questions?
No, he just asked me to look at it. Can you identify, is this Mark? Are you sure? And I said, well, yeah. He bragged about it.
Okay. And how much work did you do on the album, Invincible?
Went to the video shoot. And everything else we were already working on, what more can I give? We couldn't focus on two things at one time.
Okay, now, at some point let me rephrase that. You mentioned Christian Robinson in response to the prosecutor's questions, right?
Yes.
And when did you first meet Christian Robinson?
Gosh. 2001, first time I met him.
Was he working with Schaffel at the time?
Yeah, they might have been working on something else, but I don't know what it was. No, he was around. I don't know what they were doing. I think he just brought him on board.
You mentioned to Vinny one time in a recorded conversation that you had learned that Christian Robinson made $10,000 selling some pictures of Michael Jackson, right?
That's what I had heard, yes.
Did you ever confirm whether that was true?
I never confirmed it with Christian. I just heard it from one of my friends who told me about it.
And you indicated that he had sold those pictures to ABC, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, were you?
I'm going to object to lack of foundation.
Sustained.
Did you ever learn where Christian Robinson had sold those pictures to?
What? Say that again.
Did you ever learn where Christian Robinson sold pictures of Michael Jackson to?
Your Honor, no, objection. Lack of foundation that such pictures were sold.
Sustained.
You've indicated that you learned at some point that Christian Robinson had sold pictures of Michael Jackson for $10,000, right?
Your Honor, objection, lack of foundation.
Overruled. You may answer that. Do you want the question read back?
Please.
You've indicated that you learned at some point that Christian Robinson had sold pictures of Michael Jackson for $10,000, right?
I'll object as hearsay as well.
He's just asking him if he's already testified to that. That's his question. Did you say that a minute ago?
Yes.
Next question. Do you know whether those pictures were actually sold?
No, I had heard about it.
Okay. Did you ever talk to Christian Robinson about that subject?
No, because I was alarmed that they were doing it, but.
You never talked to him about it, right?
No.
When did you last see Christian Robinson?
I saw Christian, in Gary, Indiana.
Was that after you had learned that he had sold pictures of Michael Jackson for $10,000?
I'm going to object as lack of foundation and assuming facts not in evidence.
It's not relevant. I'll sustain that objection.
At some point, you had a discussion with Mark Schaffel about Schaffel's writing a book about Michael Jackson, true?
True.
Now, when did you first talk to Mark Schaffel about his writing a book about Michael Jackson?
I'll object as hearsay.
Just asked him when, Your Honor.
The objection is overruled. The question is, when did you talk to Schaffel about that?
I learned, he had told me that they were going to.
Just, the question is when.
When? Oh, gosh. I don't know. I don't remember. Last year sometime. German book fair.
And you had a number of discussions with him about that subject, correct?
Well, I was trying. Yeah, okay. The answer is yes.
And it was your understanding that Schaffel was trying to make some money on a book deal in Europe, right?
Objection. Lack of foundation. Hearsay.
Sustained.
Did you ever learn if Schaffel was trying to peddle a book about Michael Jackson in Europe?
Objection. Lack of foundation and hearsay.
Hearsay. Sustained.
How many conversations have you had with Mark Schaffel about the possibility of his writing a book about Michael Jackson?
I'm going to object as hearsay.
Just asked how many, Your Honor.
Assumes facts not in evidence.
Sustained. It's just hearsay.
Do you remember in one of your recorded conversations with Vinny where you told Vinny that Chris Tucker and a woman identified as his girlfriend or witnesses the Arvizo family were free to come and go from Neverland whenever they wanted?
Did Vinny say that or did I say that?
You.
Gosh, I don't remember.
Would it refresh your recollection if I show you a transcript?
Sure, go ahead.
May I approach?
Yes.
Could I ask you a question?
I'm going to object to any further dialogue other than whether or not that provision refreshed his recollection.
Oh.
Have you had a chance to look at that page of the transcript?
Yes, I looked at that.
Does it refresh your recollection about you saying that to Vinny?
Can you say the question again? I'm sorry. What was the question?
Did you tell Vinny that it was your understanding that Chris Tucker and a woman identified as Tucker's girlfriend are witnesses that the Arvizos were free to come and go whenever they wanted from Neverland?
I think I'm asking a question. I'm not? Am I asking it or am I making a statement?
I'm going to object to the absence of a foundation that it refreshed his recollection.
The only question pending is whether, having looked at that manuscript, your memory is refreshed about that statement or question, whatever it may be.
Okay.
Does it refresh your recollection?
No, not really.
All right, next question.
You've talked about the project. What more can I give? Right?
Correct.
You've talked about the work you did on Invincible, right?
No, I didn't say that. I said I went to a video shoot.
You didn't do any work yourself on it?
No, my name ain't in it.
You did some work on the rebuttal show involving Debbie Rowe, correct?
I was there for the shooting of Debbie Rowe, true.
Were you actually working for Schaffel at that time?
I worked until the 25th, and that was it, of February of '03.
So you were working for Schaffel when the interview with Debbie Rowe took place?
With Neverland Valley Entertainment.
Okay, excuse me.
Okay.
You were working with Neverland Valley Entertainment when the interview with Debbie Rowe took place?
Correct. I received my last check on the 25th.
And when the interview with Debbie Rowe took place, were you working that day at Schaffel's residence?
Yeah, I was doing filing and other miscellaneous.
Did you do any work on that video yourself?
Which video? Objection.
I'll rephrase. Did you yourself do any work on the rebuttal video involving Debbie Rowe?
Again, it's vague as to just the section of Debbie Rowe or the whole film.
I'll be happy to rephrase those questions, Your Honor. The first question. Did you do any work on the rebuttal video documentary?
Uh-huh.
Involving the Arvizos?
No.
Did you do any work on the rebuttal documentary specifically the Debbie Rowe interview?
I was there for the filming.
Okay. Were you working on it at all?
Just upstairs I was doing things for Neverland Valley Entertainment. It was part of Neverland. They were filming there.
Did the work that you were doing on that day involve the interview with Debbie Rowe?
No, not really. My work was just office stuff.
When you looked at the list of questions you've identified that were being asked of Debbie Rowe.
Uh-huh.
Was that part of your responsibilities in your work for Neverland Valley Entertainment?
They were laying around. It wasn't like, there was no secret about it. They were laying around. It was like, just like you would in any production.
Well, I think you said you went up and down the stairs during the shoot.
Yeah, I went up and down the stairs to get coffee, take a leak, come back downstairs, watch a little bit more. Go back upstairs.
Were you just watching it on your own time, or was that part of your work for Neverland Valley Entertainment?
Everybody was, it was like Stuart. We were just there. We were watching. We were, I just wanted to do something else other than just sit there for 9 hours. So
am I correct, you didn't directly work on that portion of the video?
I didn't do any lighting. I didn't ask her any questions. But I was there. It was part of Neverland Valley Entertainment, for clarity's sake.
Do you remember telling Vinny?
In what?
In one of your recorded interviews with him. Excuse me, not interviews. Excuse me. Let me rephrase the question. Do you remember telling Vinny during one of your phone conversations with him that you recorded that, all fingers point to Mark?
Yeah, he was mastermind, letting people know what was happening.
Do you remember telling Vinny that, even if you were stupid and had the inside track, you would see the fingers pointing to Mark?
Yeah, and Mark informed everybody what was going on.
How long were you in contact on a regular basis with Mark Schaffel after you decided there was a conspiracy?
I never really decided there was a conspiracy per se. I just knew something was wrong. The family had escaped, and so I was relieved. I was just real relieved that everything was just like I thought everything was just going to be. That these people were kind of like lost souls on a ship. They could just float away from me and I could just be free of all of it. But I kept in contact with them. I love people. I adore people. Even if they do something wrong doesn't mean that I have a right to judge them. And maybe I don't know all the answers, and maybe I didn't know everything that was happening at the time. But as long as everything was okay and everybody was okay, I just kind of figured that. I'm rambling. Sorry.
So around the time you decided the family had escaped, you did not judge Mark positively or negatively, is that right?
I was just, like I said, they were all on a boat, lost souls on a boat, so just let it go. Just let them go and do whatever fantastic things they do.
While you were working for Neverland Valley Entertainment at Schaffel's residence. You learned that Schaffel had stolen money from a woman in Japan, correct?
Correct.
And you kept working with him anyway, right?
I didn't learn it until later. And even though I saw some documents, I don't know if the agreement specifically was that there was to be any money given back or anything like that. I only saw, what I saw and heard what I heard.
You saw what you saw and you heard what you heard while you were working with Schaffel, right?
We were on hiatus, yeah.
Did you see the documents that you just referred to at Schaffel's residence?
I saw a couple of them, yeah. They would come in fax.
How much longer did you keep working with Schaffel after you learned he had stolen money from a woman in Japan?
Well, I learned it much later, what had happened. I learned that the money situation, because the people who can I explain this? Is that okay?
I'm just asking you how much longer you kept working for Schaffel after you saw the document you've just described.
I kept on working with him, but I didn't know he had taken this money until much later.
You were friendly with a woman named Cindy Montgomery, right?
Correct. I met her.
And when did you first meet Cindy Montgomery?
Around the Brazil trip, where they were trying to get one-way tickets to Brazil. Right around that time.
Well, Mr. Schaffel used to go to Brazil a lot, didn't he?
Well, yeah, but yes. The answer is yes.
You knew Cindy Montgomery before the Brazil trip you just referred to.
I knew of her.
Correct.
But that was the first time I was actually meeting her face to face and talking to her.
At some point you learned Cindy Montgomery tape recorded a phone conversation with you, correct?
Yes.
And you then began to tape record phone conversations with Cindy Montgomery, right?
Yes. Because the machine would come on. I believe there was one conversation in there.
And you repeatedly told Cindy Montgomery that Mark Schaffel is a prolific liar, right?
That's true.
When did you learn that Mark Schaffel was a prolific liar?
Well, do you want the short answer or the long one?
When do you think you decided Mark Schaffel is a prolific liar?
When I started working with him, things were unraveling, stories weren't matching. Things his parents did for a living, things like that. So I kept on wait a second. That's not what you told me last month, so then I was just starting to remember.
You'd known him since high school, is that correct?
I knew of him since high school, yes.
Okay. Did you know him in high school?
Yes, I knew of him in high school.
Before you began to work for Neverland Valley Entertainment, were you working in the entertainment industry?
Yes.
What were you doing?
I was a record promoter.
And where were you promoting records?
At the Universal Music Group.
How long did you do that?
Oh, God, like 4 years.
Did you run into Schaffel while you were working for the Universal Music Group?
No, I ran into Schaffel when I was working for the Warner Music Group.
When was that?
In 93. Because we lost contact from like 84 to like 93 is kind of like when we lost contact with each other, because I didn't know where he moved.
Did representatives of the sheriff's department tell you that Cindy Montgomery had recorded a conversation with you?
No, but I understood the wisdom of it later.
How did you learn she had recorded a conversation with you?
She told me the truth.
Okay, approximately when was this, if you know?
Gosh, I don't remember. I really didn't think it was a big deal, so I don't remember. I mean, I couldn't honestly tell you a day or a month.
Did you learn she had done that as a part of a police investigation?
She just basically said, "Listen, I'm your friend. I really like you. I don't want this to ruin our friendship, but, you know, I wanted to make this recording." And she did it, and listen, everybody was making recordings in that world. So this was like nothing. This was nothing. I mean, people were following people. People were making recordings. You weren't allowed to talk on the phone at Neverland, things like that. So this was nothing new.
So you were not upset when you learned that Cindy Montgomery had recorded a conversation with you as part of this investigation?
Well, I was upset, because I wished she would have just told me. And I remember, I put it in my notes, that I just thought, God, I was upset at the time. And then later on, I realized that, I could see the wisdom of why that occurred, and it was fine. It was just like I got done with what I was doing, so.
Did you tell her that you were recording conversations with her?
No, I don't think so. But I think that conversation with her was an accident, if I'm right. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 in there with her, and I think that was a complete accident, because it was just, the tape would go on, so, when you pick up the phone.
Do you remember discussing with Cindy Montgomery the fact that you were keeping notes of this investigation?
Keeping notes?
Yes.
Yeah, I keep notes of everything, My journals, do you mean?
Yes. Do you remember telling Cindy Montgomery that you were taking notes about this investigation?
I was keeping notes, yes.
Do you remember telling her about that?
All object as hearsay.
Overruled. You may answer.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
Do you remember telling Cindy Montgomery, in discussing your notes, "I'll give my lawyer the bullet points, overview, but not give him my detailed notes"? Are you kidding me? That's a book, honey.
Yes, I did say that.
But you said earlier you have no intention of writing a book about this case, right?
I don't. I really don't.
Okay. Do you know someone named Ian Barkley?
He was one of the people that Christian Robinson brought on board. I think he was a photographer also.
Did you ever?
From Utah.
Did you work with him?
No, I didn't really communicate with him. I know he was around and was working for Christian or helping to assist Christian.
Did you ever see Ian Barkley with Michael Jackson?
No.
Was it your belief that Schaffel was trying to prevent people from talking to Michael Jackson?
Well, yeah, he would. I mean, he always wanted to kind of hog the spotlight, I guess you might say.
And he tried to keep Ian Barkley away from Michael Jackson, did he not?
All object as lack of foundation and relevance.
Sustained.
I'm not sure if I asked you this. When did you last talk to Schaffel?
Right before last month, on the 14th.
Did he call you?
I don't remember, but I know I talked to him.
And when had you talked to him last before that call?
Gosh, off the top of my head, I don't remember. It was just back and forth. Whatever.
When did you last see Mark Schaffel in person?
I think it was in Ohio. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was in Ohio. Yeah, it was in Ohio.
You indicated you gave up your point.
Uh-huh.
In the project that you had with Neverland Valley Entertainment?
Yes, what more can I give?
And how did you give up your point?
I signed documents and just said, basically, Mark had provided me documents and said that this is going to return, because I had said, I think this is a good idea. We should return our points to Michael. I think that's a very good idea. And he said, oh, I agree. And I met him at Wahoo's Fish Taco, and we had lunch, and that's when I signed the point over to Michael.
And I believe you said you did that out of pure generosity, is that?
Well, I did it because I just felt like I would have bad karma owning something I didn't think I deserved. I really thought that I should do it.
Okay. Do you remember telling Vinny Amen that you should have made $150,000 by going to a tabloid?
That I go to the tabloid or he did?
You.
I never went to a tabloid.
Do you remember telling him you should have?
I might have been tempted, yes, but I never did it. And I got calls and offers, but I never took them.
Have you been told by anyone associated with the prosecution, don't make any deal till after the trial's over?
No.
Have you been told by any member of the prosecution, don't give interviews till the trial's over?
Oh, they said I'm under gag order. Is that what you mean?
Has anyone from the prosecution said to you, Mr. Provencio, don't give any interviews till this trial's over?
They never said do interviews or any of that. They just said, you're under gag order, and you're accountable for your own actions.
Do you remember telling Vinny Amen, Mark has made money hand over fist on Michael Jackson?
Yes.
Do you remember telling Vinny that Michael Jackson had given $1 million to Marlon Brando?
Yeah, I was there. Because he got booed.
And you told Vinny that Schaffel had stolen $1 million from that woman in Japan, correct?
Yes. After I found out, and maybe I'm being overassumptuous, but the woman died and he didn't return the money, so I considered that not right.
Have you ever spoken to anyone who represents the media about this case?
I have friends in the media, but I would listen to what they said, but I didn't want people to put a stranglehold on me, so I preferred not to speak to them about it.
And what friends in the media have you spoken to about this case?
Well, Catherine's a person that I talked to.
Okay, she's with who? CBS.
CBS.
Who else have you spoken to in the media about this case?
Nobody, so.
You just referred to some friends in the media.
Yes, I did refer to friends. And
who were they?
And that's Catherine Mylofsky.
I'm going to object unless there are people he actually discussed in this context.
Sustained.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Uh-huh.
Did you just say you have friends in the media that you have listened to about this case?
Yes, they call me, and I hear what they have to say, but it has to stay a one-way street.
And who are they?
Objection, irrelevant.
Sustained.
Is Ian Drew a friend of yours?
Yes, he is in the media.
Who does he work for?
A magazine. US Weekly, I think.
Have you ever had a discussion with him about this case?
Oh, yes.
And when was that discussion?
We were both there experiencing things at the same time, so that's what I mean. At the time it wasn't really a case, but we were experiencing things at the same time. So, like I said, did you hear the word escape, or did I just make that up in my mind? And he said he had heard it, too.
When did you last talk to Ian Drew about the case?
A couple days ago. Oh, about the case?
Yes.
He just said he.
When did you last talk to Ian Drew about this case?
A couple days ago.
And you said he worked for US Weekly?
Yes, but I've never been paid by them or anything like that.
What does he do for US Weekly?
You know what? I think he's a writer.
Did he call you or did you call him?
He called me.
Do you talk to him on a regular basis?
Infrequently. He's very infrequent. Cool guy. Very infrequent.
Now, in your handwritten notes, you refer to someone named Larry Schiller, correct?
I guess. Oh, is that my handwriting or Mark's?
I don't know. I can show you a page of this.
I can look at it, if you want me to look.
Sure.
We'll take our break now.
Yes, Your Honor.
No, laughter. All right, we won't.
Oh.
The second time. Laughter.
I can show you that page, if you want.
You know what? Why don't you just show me?
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Counsel, could I see that, please?
Oh, yeah, that's Mark's writing.
Okay, now, that page was found in your notes, true?
Correct.
Do you know why Mark's writing is found in your notes?
Well, I would have it, well, sometimes I was kind of stupid and I would have the book sitting out. And if he went to my phone to answer the phone and he was in there, I think that's when he wrote it. Now, I didn't see him write it, but that's when, I freaked out. I even made the reference that I got to keep my notes a little bit better.
Do you know who Larry Schiller is?
No.
Okay, did you ever talk to Mark about who Larry Schiller was?
Huh.
Okay, he writes books about trials. Did you know that?
No.
I'll object as beyond the scope of this witness's knowledge and assuming facts not in evidence.
Sustained.
Have you ever taken your notes and rewritten them?
Huh.
R.
I ramble and I scribble, but, and rewrite sometimes. Like if I find a fact out, I'll, write out the answer. Or sometimes I'll be, well, what is this? You know what I mean? Because, in that period of time, I wasn't sure who was telling me the truth. That's why the notes seem pretty scrambly a little bit.
I thought you'd forgotten about them.
What do you mean?
Your notes.
Well, I did, for a period of time after it was all done. I just stuck it in a box in storage, so.
Did you ever go back to those notes and redo them?
No.
Ever add anything to any of those notes?
No. I know I have, different styles of handwriting. But, no.
Did you ever go back to your notes when you had another thought and just kind of add something?
No. That wouldn't be cool.
Was there only one set of notes?
One set of notes?
Yes.
There are many notes. There are many journals.
When did you first give the police? Well, let me rephrase that.
Okay.
The notes you took, are you referring to them as journals?
Yes.
Okay.
Just notes that I took. Journals.
Okay. When did you first give any representative of the sheriff's department a journal referring to anything about this case?
I guess the first couple weeks, I guess. Oh, no, it was during I had notes that I gave them when they came to my house the first time.
You gave them your journal notes a few weeks ago, didn't you?
No, I continuously give them notes.
The notes you were referring to earlier that have a February 1st date are notes you gave them a couple of weeks ago?
That's true. From the Neverland Valley book, right.
Had you given them some notes before that recent date?
Well, it was an ongoing investigation, so I gave them notes all along. I was keeping in contact with people, so.
You didn't give them any of your notes until a few weeks ago, right?
Any of my notes? No.
Objection.
Sustained.
You mentioned someone named Stuart Backerman, right? And when did you first meet Stuart Backerman?
When he was hired to come on for the What More Can I Give project. Or was it? No, he was hired for when he came on, excuse me. He came on when Ronald brought him on to work on the kind of the fallout of the Martin Bashir thing. That's when I believe he started working.
Did you work with him directly?
Yeah, he was in the office.
How long did you work with him?
Couple months. Well, not really. Probably a month and a half maybe.
Now, in your notebook, you have phone numbers and fax numbers for Access Hollywood?
Yes.
MTV? Entertainment Tonight? Have you ever talked to anyone associated with those organizations?
Yeah, they were all calling us.
About the case?
About the case?
Yes.
Not me. Mark did, but I just kept the phone calls because they called in.
Did you listen in on any of Mark's calls to the media?
A few of them. Like when he was, like I said, he would have it on speakerphone, and you would just sit there and you would just listen.
Did you ever become aware of Mark's efforts to sell any information about Michael Jackson to the media?
Assuming facts not in evidence. Objection.
Sustained.
Do you remember discussing with Cindy Montgomery the possibility that she secretly videotaped Michael Jackson on an extra jet flight?
Did I talk to her about it?
Yes.
I don't remember it. But probably did.
Did you have a number of discussions with Cindy Montgomery about the claim that she had secretly videotaped Michael Jackson on an extra jet flight?
Assuming facts not in evidence, that she had secretly videotaped anyone.
Sustained.
Do you remember learning about that issue?
Yes.
Objection. Vague. What issue?
Cindy Montgomery videotaping Michael Jackson on an extra jet flight. Do you remember learning about that subject?
Objection. Assuming facts not in evidence.
Sustained.
Did you ever tell anyone you thought Cindy Montgomery secretly videotaped Michael Jackson on a flight?
I'm going to object as irrelevant. Assumes facts not in evidence.
Overruled.
And hearsay.
Overruled.
I don't remember.
Do you remember talking with her about that subject?
Of her videotaping?
The claim that she had.
What the news was reporting.
Yes.
Yeah, I brought it up to her. I believe so.
Did you ever tell anyone you thought she had done it?
I was uncertain.
To your knowledge, how long had Cindy Montgomery been friendly with Mark Schaffel?
Well, I found out many things, but I found out that.
Judge. I'm going to object. Lack of foundation, personal knowledge, and hearsay.
Foundation. Sustained.
How many phone calls of Cindy Montgomery, how many phone conversations with Cindy Montgomery did you record?
That was asked and answered. Objection.
Sustained.
Did anyone from the sheriff's department ask you to record a phone conversation with Cindy Montgomery?
No, but like I said, it just came on, so it was an accident. I acknowledge that.
It was a what?
It was an accident. I acknowledge that.
Okay, it was an accident that you recorded her?
It was an accident that the thing. I didn't mean to record her.
Okay, and how many times did you record her in total, do you think?
I think once or twice, because I wouldn't get to the thing and pick it up right away.
Okay, and was this at your home?
Yes.
Were you recording these phone conversations out of your home?
Yes.
Okay, did the sheriffs give you some equipment to use to record those conversations?
I went and got it.
Yourself?
Yes.
Had you ever done that before you began to work with the sheriffs in this investigation?
Huh.
Did they tell you what equipment to buy?
No.
Did you already know what kind of equipment to buy for that purpose?
I just walked into Radio Shack.
And when was that?
I don't recall.
You used to discuss entertainment projects with Cindy Montgomery, right?
Correct.
And why did you do that?
Because she had some good ideas.
Was she involved with you in any entertainment projects?
Oh, yeah, we worked on Michael's party together.
And when was that?
September of '03.
Was that a party at Neverland?
Yes, the Romero Brito party.
And you worked with Cindy Montgomery on that?
We did the thing for the raffle, yes.
And that was a charitable function?
I hope so, but, yes.
It was a charitable function, correct?
Yes.
Schaffel was involved in that, correct?
Yes.
And you were working for Schaffel at that time, right?
Well, no, I was working for Neverland Valley Entertainment.
And this was when? September of 2003?
Yes. They had asked me to, if I would be willing to do another fundraising thing and help Michael raise some money. And I thought maybe that might be a good idea.
Were you suspicious at the time that the money might not go to charity?
Well, I was uncertain, but I don't want to think the worst, but.
Did you keep working for Neverland Valley after that date?
No.
You didn't work after September of 2003?
Oh, September 2003. Neverland Valley Entertainment, getting a check?
Yes.
No.
When was this event that you just described?
It was in September.
Of what year?
I think 2003. 2003 or 2004. Maybe I'm wrong. I have a reference here. May I look at it?
Sure.
Okay.
Just looking for that day.
Yes, September 13, 2003.
And that was how long after you were relieved that the family escaped?
It was a while.
I'm going to object as asked and answered and argumentative.
Sustained.
Do you remember telling Cindy Montgomery in a recorded phone conversation regarding the Debbie Rowe interview that it was a sheet full of questions, referring to the script? Do you remember that?
Yes, there was. There was a few, in the beginning, a sheet full of questions, and then it turned into having answers on it.
All right.
It wasn't just one piece of paper, ever.
During the time you worked with Mark Schaffel, how many times do you remember him going to Brazil?
Quite a few times.
And over?
4, 5 times, maybe.
Over what period of time would that have been?
Over a couple of years, that I knew of.
To your knowledge, did Cindy Montgomery book his trips to Brazil?
To my knowledge, yes.
Do you know when you first talked to her?
About?
Anything.
Probably not until the What More Can I Give? Project. Probably June 2001, when she would call at the office.
Do you remember giving the sheriffs your handwritten notes about the taping of the Arvizos?
Right.
Where you said you saw the script yourself. Questions only, no answers?
Yes, I wrote that.
You gave those notes to the police, correct?
Right.
You were referring to the taping of the Arvizos, right?
Correct. And then later on, I believe, in the notes I make another remark about it.
Were you there during the taping of the Arvizos?
No, that was at Hamid's place.
Did you ever meet Jay Jackson?
No.
To your knowledge, has Ian Drew been speaking to Mark Schaffel as of late?
No, they don't like each other.
Did they ever work together, to your knowledge?
Yeah, on the Debbie Rowe rebuttal.
Did they work on any other projects together, to your knowledge?
The one that they were at, which was the Debbie Rowe rebuttal. I think there was something else, but I think there was something in regards to.
I'm going to object to lack of foundation, unless it's based on personal knowledge.
Sustained. Foundation.
Now, you mentioned hearing some conversations that involved Mark Garrigus, right?
Correct. He would call the office.
Did you use to speak to Mark Garrigus?
No, I didn't speak to him.
Ever spoken to him?
Just when he called the office.
And did you ever actually have a conversation with him?
No.
Do you recognize his voice if you hear it?
It's pretty distinctive, but.
Did you ever listen in on any discussions that Mark Schaffel had with Mark Garrigus?
No.
Well, in your response to the prosecutor's questions, you, I think, gave a number of how many times you had. You recall Garrigus calling Schaffel, right?
Uh-huh.
And how many times do you recall Garrigus calling Schaffel?
Well, he called quite a bit. When Mark said that he only talked to him twice, but I know he was calling often when Vinny was there.
Did you hear anything that Mark Garrigus ever said in those conversations?
Just updates.
You heard him giving updates?
No, Vinny was giving him updates.
Could you hear Vinny but not Garrigus? Is that the way it worked?
Well, yeah.
Were you in the room?
And then he would hang up, and I would go, who was that? And he would go, oh, just Mark Garrigus.
Were you in the room listening to Vinny speak to Mr. Garrigus?
Well, sometimes it's an office, so if you're on the fax machine or you're on the computer, you can hear people talking. So.
Could you hear what Vinny was saying?
Well, you could hear Vinny, yes.
Did you listen to his conversations with Mark Garrigus?
I heard the conversation in a work setting.
And was this one conversation?
No, there were a couple.
And where did they take place?
At Neverland Valley Entertainment.
Have you ever met Mark Garrigus?
Huh.
Let me take just 1 second.
Yes.
You took notes. Excuse me. You've been writing notes about this case almost up till the present, right?
Practically, uh-huh.
And do you do this on a daily basis?
No.
How often do you do it?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Sustained.
Did you ever tell any representative of the sheriff's department that Dieter didn't tell Michael Jackson everything?
None of them told everybody everything, so, that's an accurate statement, because they had their own deal. Oops, sorry. They had their own deals they would do, and if they weren't part of Michael, I don't think they would tell him.
During the time you worked with Neverland Valley, was it your perception that Schaffel was working closely with Dieter and Konitzer?
And Michael, yes.
Well, but you've told the police that you didn't think Michael Jackson knew what they were doing, correct?
No, not what they were doing. Not everything. There's a difference.
Do you recall anyone in the sheriff's department ever giving you a police report to read and make corrections to?
Oh, yes, I made corrections.
And when did you do that, if you remember?
One of the meetings.
Pardon me?
One of the meetings.
Do you know who you were meeting with?
Yes.
Who were you meeting with?
Gordon and Steve, or was it? Oh, it was Gordon. It was Jeff Klapakis.
And where did that meeting take place?
In their office.
And did someone give you a police report about your interview to look at?
At that time?
Yes.
No, they gave me a police report to look at later.
When was that?
And I made corrections.
When was that?
You know what? Honestly, I don't know.
Were you given a copy of a police report about a past interview you'd had for you to correct?
Yes, some of the words, like my name was misspelled and other things like that. Plus, I'd been getting phone threats, and I wanted to make sure they knew that I had been getting some phone threats lately.
Well, my question is this. Who gave you a police report from a past interview to look at and make corrections?
Gordon.
Gordon Auchincloss?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you do what he asked you to do?
He said to look it over. Are these things spelled right? Are these things right? And I did.
And when did that meeting take place?
I told you, I don't exactly remember.
Was it recently?
No, it was a while ago. Maybe a couple months ago, yeah.
A couple of months ago?
Yeah, probably a couple months ago.
And what report were you? Excuse me. The report that Mr. Auchincloss gave you to look at. Concerned an interview that was very old, did it not?
Yeah, like I said to you prior, that, when that interview was taking place, I was very nervous, and I could expand on certain things a little bit better, bring clarity to it.
And is that what you and Mr. Auchincloss discussed the purpose of your looking at that report was?
No, he just said correct the spelling, and if there's something that's totally wrong, just make a mark on it.
This is a report about an interview that had happened a long time ago, correct?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Sustained.
Do you remember looking at that report of your prior interview where you talked about Schaffel and Dieter and Konitzer doing things you thought were wrong?
Yeah, I always thought that.
And while you were sitting with Prosecutor Auchincloss, you decided to add the name, Michael Jackson, right?
No. God, no.
Did you ever add Michael Jackson to any report that he gave you to correct?
I added, Michael Jackson. Yes, I added Michael Jackson, because that's what I knew from those 2 conference calls. That's it.
He wanted you to add the name, Michael Jackson, because it didn't appear in your original interview, right?
No, he didn't want me to add it.
Well, that's what you did, isn't it?
I added it, because it was correct.
So you were correcting a statement you made well over a year ago where you said Schaffel, Konitzer and Dieter were doing incorrect things? And suddenly, right before the trial, you handwrote in an additional name, Michael Jackson, right?
I'm going to object as argumentative and narrative in the questioning.
Sustained.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor. Just 1 second, Your Honor. I've got a bunch of stuff to move. Thank you.
Mr. Provencio, did anybody in law enforcement ever ask you to change your testimony?
No.
Did anybody in law enforcement ever ask you to create facts to help this prosecution?
Absolutely not.
Would you have done such a thing?
No.
Did Mr. Auchincloss ever ask you to change any of the factual content in your report?
No.
What exactly did he ask you to do with regards to that report?
Look it over, make sure things are right, that they're spelled right. And my name was even spelled wrong. And I didn't give a taped recording, so I know it was kind of handwritten note-driven and there was things missing. Because if you're not tape recorded, then it can't be like a transcript form.
And did you make changes on that report?
Yes.
All right. Did you believe that there was a statement that missed Mr. Jackson's name that should have been included?
Yes. That's why.
What was it that you believed that Mr. Jackson's name should have been included on?
That he knew what was going on along with everyone else, he knew what was happening.
What did you base that on?
The conversation I heard.
You had had many conversations with Mr. Jackson over the 2 years you worked for Neverland Valley Entertainment, is that correct?
Not tons and tons, but many, yes.
And had overheard many conversations that he had with Mr. Schaffel?
That's correct.
Was it your experience that Mr. Jackson was actively involved in his own businesses?
He's a brilliant businessman. He knows what's going on.
And he would ask questions frequently?
He wanted updates.
Objection. Leading.
Overruled.
Do you have the notebook with you that contains that note that you wrote on, that is dated February 1st, 03?
May I look?
Please.
Okay. In regards to the conference call?
It was a note that was shown to you by Mr. Mesereau. Could I approach the witness?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you have that with you?
Yes.
Would you pull it out, please?
Okay. Oh, here it is. Is it this one? Yeah.
Those are the original notes, is that correct?
Yes.
And may I take a look at it?
Sure.
Now, are these the notes that you refer to as the ones that went into a storage locker?
Yes. And I have the storage locker thing to show that that's when I found them.
Would this be the front of the notebook here?
Yeah. It looks juvenile, but, yeah.
That's all right. We have NVE.
Right.
In kind of block letters. Is that Neverland Valley Entertainment?
Right.
All right. Now, as we proceed to the section that has February 1st, 03, and you see that page right here, is that correct?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Now, let's back up 2 pages.
Uh-huh.
And this would be closer to the front of the notebook, is that correct?
Right.
And here we have a date, February 17th, 03?
Uh-huh.
Can you explain how that is? That you have an entry from February 17th closer to the front of the notebook and this reference that Mr. Mesereau talked to you about, February 1st, 03, 2 full pages beyond. How is that?
Well, my notebook's random. I doodle in it. I open a page that's open, and I just write. Then it's on both sides. I've got horrible drawings, and that's what my notebook is. It's for me and my eyes only, so it's not really meant for other people to see and care about it.
I guess the question, then, is this. Should we assume that the order in which we see the pages is the order in which they're entered?
Oh, no. If the first page is supposed to be January 1st and then the third page, or second page January 2nd, no, it's not written like a diary. It's written like a notebook would, from an office. You just scribble on whatever you scribble on. This is the notebook I just carried around.
Now, this notebook ended up in a storage locker, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, we'll take our break.